examples from the National Football League. If if some I think not all of you guys know what the National Football League is. It's basically, does everybody know what American football is?
Yeah, yeah.
At least, yeah. So it's basically just an American football league. That's basically what it is. So I just did some I just did some examples. So each team, for supervised learning, I said each team either plays home or away all the time. So they usually devote half their schedule at home and half their schedule like away. I mean, they do play in other cities, but they just play like away from like where their stadium really is. So say you are in like, say you say you're the team is in Detroit or something. They would play in Detroit, but they would have to play in other cities, so basically away from Detroit. Um, and my next example, basically, we usually the quarterback is the only one that always has the mic, but um, on defense, that you have to predict who's actually going to who you gotta decide who's actually gonna have that like mic, who's gonna call out the plays and all to the other defenders. So basically, the you gotta look at like uh, experience level or how they played last year, or if they're good enough to if they're good enough to have this kind of responsibility. And also, I did predicting the performance of a team based on how they did in their previous match. So that's how basically those what is that? The predictions are made about what the score is actually going to be, because based on what the team did like last week, um, say they lost like to 27-23 in that game, in the last game, they make a prediction based on like, oh, this team isn't very good in the clutch or isn't very good in close games, then they should they might actually lose this game as well, because this team might be good in the other team that they're facing might be good in pressure situations, under pressure, and always manage to eke out wins just like that. So yeah, just those predictions of scores is something that they make be using like AI and like what the other team did last week. And for unsupervised learning examples in the NFL, so I just did like grouping players based on salary. So say they have like a very high salary. Um, there's a few examples like so one player, he got like 84 million for like 7 years. Uh, so like 12 million guaranteed or something. So that's a very high salary. But other players who are like who are below the depth chart and like not used as much, or might have like maybe $100,000 or something. So that might be a lower salary. So it depends on like how good you really are in the league, and yeah, and you also have to group teams based on salary cap. So basically, salary cap is like how much a team can actually spend during a season. It basically matters about what you did last year. So say a team actually like spent a lot of money on different players, they wouldn't have much of a salary cap the next year, because they spent so much. So one example of this is the Los Angeles Rams. They basically got a lot of players. They got a lot of a lot of players out of free agency, and use those and basically use those players to get to the Super Bowl. But what happens is the next season they didn't have as much money to actually they didn't have as much money to draft like a high draft they didn't have as much money to get other free agents, because of the fact that um lost so much money from the other season. And you can also group players. Group teams based on win percentage. So basically, say like you have the teams that are not as good, and then you have the teams that are have an average like record, and the teams that are actually in like the playoffs. So basically, say a team is like 3-13, that would be a good record. So they would put them in the low win percentage. And then say a team was like 7-9, 8 or 8, and an 8-8, that would be like an average kind of win percentage. And another team might have like a 13-3 record. That would be like the high kind of high win percentage. So just grouping them based on that, that could be a example for unsupervised learning. And those are all my examples.